Welcome back, everybody, to the funnest show on social studies on YouTube. It's History with Mr. B, and I'm your host, Mr. B. Today, in episode 001, we're going to talk about maps and why they're not boring and why they are exciting. Let's talk about maps today, folks, and you will laugh and you will learn, just like every episode of History with Mr. B. Let us begin. All right. When I talk to my students about maps, they come in three different varieties. The first map that you have, and the most common map when people talk about maps, is a political map. That's going to show you human-made borders. All right, for my example, and human-made borders change frequently. All right, I often tell students, if you can go to my map in the front of my classroom and find me the Soviet Union, I'll give you an A for the whole year. And foolishly, somebody will go up there and try to look for it. It's not there. Anyway, as you can see in the reference map of Nevada, this is where the show is broadcasting from. This is a political map. It shows you the different counties of Nevada, and they're in different colors. So that's the first type of map that you can have, a political map. When I think of politics or political, I think of politics. I think of man-made boundaries, just like politicians would draw. And that's what helps me remember that. Now, the second map is pretty much the opposite of that. If it's not man-made, it's made by Mother Nature. So the second type of map is a physical map. And those are always going to show the physical features of the Earth, whether it's a pond, a lake, a river, an ocean, a mountain, a desert. That's where we live here in the Mojave Desert. Hey, let's build a city in the middle of the desert. That sounded like a good idea. And it turned out, but it's crazy. We are in the middle of the desert in Las Vegas. The only people I think that are crazier are the people from Phoenix. It's even hotter there. Anyway, man-made features, mountains, like I mentioned, archipelagos, groups of islands, anything that Mother Nature has intended to leave her mark on planet Earth would be shown on a physical map. So that's pretty simple. The physical map that I have for you guys is very simple. Now, the third type of map is all-inclusive. It's called a thematic map. A thematic map can show you anything. I can show you life expectancy in different countries. I can show you favorite candy bars per nation, right? I can show you anything like that. The thematic map, the information that I want to show you today, because it's fun and kind of funny, are the United States of sodas. So in the United States of sodas, you're going to be able to see, hey, that's my state, and that's their best-selling soda. Out here, funny, if you can find Nevada, you can see that it's Red Bull, and I do believe that has to do with the casinos and the gaming industry, because I know they mix the Red Bull, whatever. But as you can see, every state has a best-selling soda. So that's a thematic map. I can show you religions. I can show you political parties. I'm going to stay away from all that stuff, but just know that thematic map can show you literally anything. If you can think about it, I can make you a map about it. All right. So maps are boring. Wrong. I mean, obviously they're not. I'm showing you that they can be fun. There's your United States of sodas. All right, now let's get down to what does it take to actually make something a map? Well, I've created an acronym for you guys out there and you girls that don't like social studies, and the acronym is TODALS, TODALS, all right? Very quickly at the speed of fun. T is the title. Every map has to have a title, and the title is usually going to tell you what it is. World map, map of the United States, the United States of soda. The map is going to give it away. All right, so every map has to have a title. I used to make students do a map of their neighborhood. So their maps would be, Jacob's neighborhood or Billy's neighborhood map. Get it? Title. All right, let's move on to orientation. All right. Orientation just simply means direction. You've got never eat soggy waffles on the compass rose, NESW, and then the corresponding intermediate directions, northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest. Don't be afraid if you haven't learned that, because if you may have had a bad teacher for social studies, you may have had a moment where you've tuned out or whatever it is. It just goes clockwise, NESW. Never eat soggy waffles, northeast, south, and west. Pretty simple. It's not that difficult. All right, the next letter, where was I? I was TOD. A would be author. Excuse me, TOD. D is for date. Okay, every map has to have a date. Why is that important? Well, If I gave you a map of 1950s Las Vegas, you would be hard pressed to find a lot of those locations. They simply don't exist anymore. So a date is often very important. If I showed you a map of United States pre-Civil War 1860, it will look a lot different than the one from 2022 USA. So the date is important. Again, places do change, not the physical location. I mean, Mount Everest is getting bigger by a quarter inch a year, but ultimately, for our intents and purposes, the physical features are going to stay the same. It's the man-made or human-made, political borders that will change. All right. After that is the author. So TODA. A is for author. What's that? It's the person or the company. Usually it's a company that created the map. All right. I remember years ago when I moved out here to Las Vegas, I took a TomTom out here. That was the company that made the map, and it was an electronic GPS. Now we all have that on our phones. So Google Maps pretty much is what it is now. But I remember when I was a kid, we had Rand McNally Road Atlas, and there was different companies that made maps. But A is for author, L is for the legend. The legend is that box of symbols that tells you what everything means. The crisscross is a railroad track. The blue line is the river. The dotted line is the interstate highway, so on and so forth. Most of the time, they will call legend a key, but it doesn't work for total, so I use the word legend. But the legend is always going to show you landmarks and features on a map, how to decipher them when you look at the map. Finally, scale measures distance on a map. If 1 inch on a map represents 100 miles, and you think, hey, that's not too far, well, you're going to be in for a heck of a long walk. You have to understand that a map is a representation, and what you're looking at is a ratio. So if 1 inch is equal to 1 mile, and your two distances are 5 inches apart, well, that's a 500-mile trip. That's going to take you a day in a car. Unless you drive like my wife, then you're going to get there probably in just 2 hours. So obey the speed limit is what I'm telling you. All right, let's move on. So now we have to talk about how do we look at a map? Well, we've got a map. We break it down. I really don't like math, but it's basically an XY coordinate. All right, the latitude is the X, the longitude is the Y. So we break up the Earth into 4 hemispheres. Hemi means half, sphere means globe. I definitely hope that you understand at this point in time the Earth is a 3-dimensional globe and it's not a flat Earth. If you are a flat Earther, though, do me a favor and please go to the edge, take a picture, and send it back to me. But I don't want to talk about that right here. So you've got hemispheres, and basically where I'm broadcasting from, North America, it's only in the north and the east, right? And you've got the southern hemisphere, you got the eastern and the western. All right, pretty simple. So the line that makes the northern and southern hemisphere is called the equator, and that's 0 degrees latitude. Latitude always goes east and west. It's the latitude dance. What's your latitude, dude? There you go. Now, the Earth is also separated into a west and to an east by the prime meridian. That's 0 degrees longitude. How do you remember longitude, Mr. B? Well, have you ever seen anyone with long hair? Their hair goes from north to south, right? They have long hair, longitude. Latitude, east and west, longitude, north and south. It's a dumb, silly acronym or a mnemonic device, excuse me, but my students always remember it. They come to me 5 years later and they go, hey, what's your latitude, dude? And I'm like, well, it's stuck in your brain because you remember through that silly dance, latitude goes east and west. But basically, there's 2 types of location that we have to talk about, and that's it. You're ready, you're skilled, you're ready for maps. The 2 types of location are relative and absolute. Now, absolute location is a finite point on the Earth's surface. It's GPS, it's a brick and mortar address, it's a definitive place that you can find on planet Earth. So my address is absolute location. All right. If I gave you my latitude and longitude, that would be absolute location. Now, relative location is different. Relative location is where something is in relation to something else. For example, I live next to the Santa Fe Casino. It's relative location. If you didn't know where the Santa Fe Casino was, you'd never be able to find my place. Mr. B's room is around the corner from Mr. Howard's room. Okay. If you didn't know where Mr. Howard's room is, that would be, of no help to find Mr. B's room. So it's in relation. You have absolute, think GPS, think brick and mortar address. You have relative in relation to another place. I used to have this roommate from Port Arthur, Texas. His name is Derek Freeman. I do believe he became the mayor. Fact check me, but he was the master of relative location. I'd say, hey, this is back in the early 2000s before cell phones. Hey, D Free, where are you right now? And he would say, oh, shoot, man, I'm just a hop, skip, a hoot, and a holler away. And I'd be like, I'm very, specific. I don't understand what the heck that means. I'm not sure how far a hop and a scoot is. Anyway, that's relative versus absolute location. Episode 2 coming out next week. I'm going to talk about early man and early woman, early humans from 200,000 years ago to about 10,000 years ago, and the invention of something called farming and the first genocide the humans ever committed against Neanderthal man. So you're definitely going to want to please hit that like button. Please subscribe. This is History with Mr. B, your one-stop need for social studies, entertainment, and kind of dad joke comedy. Hit that like button and subscribe. I'll see you guys next week. History with Mr. B, and I'm out.